Hello, my name is Rudy Verpalen. I'm from Belgium and I made a special tool for the VL1 and VL7 synthesizers. This tool is not an editor, it's a librarian, so it's a tool which is oriented towards organizing all the patches or the voices of your synthesizer. Okay, it's freely available. You can distribute it and everything. So let's start the tool. Voila, the tool did start. I will not walk through this all. This screen is just explaining why I made this tool free available. The important thing is that you now understand how to use the tool. So to get out of the screen, you press escape. Voila. And now you are in the tool itself. You see the tool has two sides. So the left side is representing your synthesizer and the right side is representing the library or your computer. Okay, so up to this moment this is empty. I'm gonna do a backup of all the voices that are in my VL1, so 128 voices. This takes about 3 minutes and a half. While it's doing that, I will explain a little bit more about the tool. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is set up the connection. So I'm gonna set up this connection and then close. You're gonna need to set it up every time because the tool doesn't save settings. Okay, it's a free tool, so I kept it to the basics. Now, in order to get all the voices from your synthesizer, just here press the F4 button. Now you see here a little dialog saying, do you want to dump out the voices from your synthesizer? This will take some minutes. Let's go for it. And now it starts. Okay. So, as you can see, the voices are arriving. And the list here on the computer is filling, and you see here as well, one by one, that the buttons are receiving the names of the voices that are stored in your synthesizer. Okay, while it's busy, I'm gonna explain a little bit more about the tool. Here you see the 8 function buttons. They are not the same thing as what you have on your synthesizer. I just used them because I like them. And I assigned actions to them. Okay, I will walk through each of those actions that it takes, or the functionalities. I will explain that later on. But these are very important buttons. Here you have the display. The display is showing you what is happening in the tool. You see here the main name of the voice arriving or sending, and you see here at the element 1 and the element 2 of that voice. See here the inputs and the outputs. You see that the tool is busy. You have here as well an overview on the MIDI control data that comes in and out. Here you have the progress bar, and here on top you see that's actually the function of that button. So this button is storing one voice, this button is getting one voice, this button is storing all voices, this is getting all voices, this is comparing the voice, this is switching the mode, I will explain later, this is capturing the names, so the names that are in this list will be assigned to those buttons here. And here you have the settings, as you saw. I already explained that a little bit there. Here, this panel allows you to send a program change to your synthesizer. So if you press the button A and then 2, then on the synthesizer itself it will as well appear, or it will as well switch to that voice bank. Same thing if you switch your synthesizer, so on the synthesizer itself, then this panel will follow. I will quickly demonstrate this because the backup is finished now. Voila, backup is finished. Here you see it did do a validation, so it does check if all the voices that arrive, did they arrive correctly, and it asks you here now, do you want to save this library? Let's do this because you later on want to reuse that. Every time when you're gonna start up the tool, you're gonna load that library, because otherwise you always need to retrieve the 128 voices. That's a little bit time taking. So save, let's call it backup 001. You don't need to give it an extension, it's automatically receive an extension VLL. So I've saved this. Here it is. So let's put that in the backup directory. Come on. Voila. So it's in this backup directory. What you see here on the display as well now is the name of the library. So this library, it shows here, and here the amount of voices that are loaded. Let me first continue explaining a little bit more the tool. So I'm gonna move here the wheels on the synthesizer. As you can see, everything reacts. If I press here the button A2, then you see here the name of the voice appearing on the display, and that's the same voice name as what is currently stored in the voice slot of your synthesizer. So it's very important that this list is reflecting the reality of your synthesizer. But you can do much more with this simple list, and you will quickly realize that. Okay, so we have now that list, and we have everything done here. These buttons here is the same thing. So if you press this button, it's the same thing as getting one voice. If you press this button, then it's the same thing as sending one voice. If you press this, then you receive all voices. If you press this, you are going to send all voices. So let's demonstrate that. You see here, proceed. So again, it's the same thing as saying get all, same functionality. And if you press this one, you will store the 120 voices because it detects 128 voices in the list. It's the same thing as the F3 button. You will store. Okay, so those buttons are the same thing. And then have here the little asterisk. If you press that one, then it says that the names here that you have in this column will be assigned to those buttons. Okay, this is a very handy thing because otherwise you just have the memory location or the voice slot location. Now you can actually add the voice name. Because we did do a full dump out, the tool is clever enough to say I to use those names and assign them immediately to those buttons. Okay, voila. So we made a backup. The first thing you normally do when you start the tool, press escape, settings, select the MIDI port, close. Okay, you see it's all empty, but now we made a backup. So let's press the open button, go to the backup, load this one, and now automatically the 128 voices we backed up are back in the list, and it proposes as well to use those voice names. So if you press this button, it's the same thing as pressing this button or pressing this button. It will assign the names to those buttons. So let's do that. Voila. As of now, again, the tool is synchronized with your synthesizer. So if you press any button, voila, you see here on the tool baritone sax, and you see it as well on the synthesizer that the synthesizer is following. Okay, now another thing you can do with the list, you can save it with another name if you want, or you can do an export. An export is a very important feature because what this does is it will save each voice as an individual sysax voice to your disk. So let's do that. Now it will ask, okay, where do we want to save those? I'm gonna put them in the same folder. Okay, voila. as you can see here, the library name has been used as a prefix, and then you have here the voice name. The forbidden characters are removed, so everything that would confuse the file system has been removed, like asterisk, ID wildcards and things like that. Okay, now we have the same voices of the library stored as individual voices on our disk. This has a big advantage. Why? I will explain immediately. If we do clear, then this list is completely cleaned up. Okay, that doesn't mean that you have all the voices lost from your synthesizer. No problem. They are still there. It's just this list is empty. And now what you can do is you can start reorganizing those voices. You could say, I want this voice. Sorry, you select this one. I want this voice. Come on. Yeah, I want this voice on bank B. I want this one on this one. I want jazz guitar on the A bank. You see? So you can start organizing and moving the voices where you want them. Okay. So you can structure a complete new library using those sysx voices. Okay. Then later on, you can say, send this to my synthesizer, and now it detects, in this case, okay, we only added 6 voices. It will send them to the synthesizer. So if we now say proceed, now you see the tool will automatically save the voice to the memory location that corresponds to the row of the list. So if you have 128 voices, it will store 128 voices into your synthesizer. So if you would do a complete restore of the backup library, then you would simply load the backup library, or let's do this. You can select this library and you can say this. Voila, drag and drop. So now we have again that library, and if we then say this button, it would store 128 voices, because it now detects 128 voices into your synthesizer. Okay. Voila. So now we have again a list which is not corresponding anymore with what is stored in our synthesizer, because we changed 6 voices, remember. But I will not do a complete dump out anymore. Let's proceed with this tutorial. Where are we? Okay, I made a little list here. So backup and export, we explained. Main features, let's walk through this. Gonna take a library from the Yamaha. So let's do that. Drag it here. Okay. It imports that library automatically. So the tool is clever enough to detect that this is an old format library, and now all those voices are available in this list. Okay, if we select, so okay, use those names, no, because they don't correspond with what is in our synthesizer. But if we now select a bank, here you see this still corresponds to the voice that is in our synthesizer. And if I now say, okay, oh, I want to listen to this voice, okay, then double click on this, and it's loaded into the current memory of your synthesizer. So if you play, voila. So that's the sound of this voice. It didn't overwrite that memory slot, don't worry. So this voice here is still in the memory slot, and I will prove that if you press the compare button, and if you now press again, voila. So you can compare voices before you decide to store them. Imagine that you're now happy and that you say, well, yeah, why not? I want this voice on that memory location. Just press the store 1 button, proceed, and there you go. Now you see the name is changed here, and as well if you would press another voice slot and press again, you will see that the synthesizer has as well stored this voice into that memory location. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing this is another way of doing this is going straight with the voices here. So imagine you say, I want this one. You draw it on this and not here. If you draw it on this display, you send it actually straight to the synthesizer. Voilà, here we are. So it's the same thing as pressing a button where you say this button here, but you send immediately the file to your synthesizer, even if it's not yet in the list. So if you say, okay, let's play. Okay, we are happy with this. Then you can do the same thing. Store. It will store this voice into that memory slot. Proceed. Yes, there we are. Well, so you can create a complete folder structure organized with the different type of category of voices, and simply drag them to the synthesizer. And have always the appropriate destination voice slot activated. Okay, that's one way of doing this. What can we explain more? So if you would drag and drop a voice bank or a single voice, let's take this one, 2001. Okay, voila, it does the same thing. Okay, the voice is loaded as it was like a sysax voice. The reason why is because the tool is clever enough to detect this only contains one voice. So if you have a library or you have a file like this, if it has one voice, it will automatically treat it as a single voice, and it will not store it into this list. Imagine that you say, I want to have this list changed. You can do the same thing. Instead of sending it to the synthesizer, you can take this voice, come on, and drop it on the list here. Okay, so same thing here. You see, you can drop it on the list. If you drop it on the list, it doesn't send it. Okay. And if you drop it on the synthesizer, then it sends it to the synthesizer, but it doesn't fill it in the list. So this way you can keep those two tools separate and start building up your library based on what you want, or start to store voices into the synthesizer based on what you want. Okay, what do we have more? Let's take a bank and drag that bank on the list. It detects 11 voices. We don't use the voices, we just continue. So we have now that list. Okay, if you press double click, if you double click, it loads the voice into the synthesizer. Or if we press this button, it loads the voice into the synthesizer. Or if we press double click on this button, voila, it loads the voice as well to the synthesizer. Okay, now imagine that you want a voice from your synthesizer back into the list. So let's take this one, then simply press this button. So it retrieves the voice that is on the memory slot and puts that into the location you have selected here. So you can select any voice, press this button, and it retrieves it back into the list. You can as well use a shortcut, press the Alt key and at the same time press double click, and the voice is as well getting back into that list. Okay, so you can retrieve voices from the memory location of your synthesizer and put them again into any kind of location of this library. This way you can go both directions. Voila. What do we have more? Okay, the mode button. This button here is a button that allows you to go even faster. So if you press this button, you will see that everything starts glowing red or something like that. Now, what this does is, if you now take a voice here and you say send, then that voice is automatically stored into the synthesizer. No questions asked, just moved straight into the memory of your synthesizer. Of course, you can play with it. Voila, that's a weird sound. But it's stored immediately. So if you press now again this button, same thing. If you would move this, voila, you saw immediately. Voila. So that voice is again stored straight into the synthesizer. So no confirmation needed in terms of storing a voice. So let's see. If you put it again in normal mode, you see current. If you put it in read-write mode, then it writes straight into the memory. So let's give an example. Now it's current. Imagine we have a voice, and we say we want to change this one to, let's take this. Voila, this voice is now sent, and now you need to press store, and then you say proceed, and then it's there. So you see, you can skip about 2 steps by using this feature, the mode feature. But be aware, it overrides immediately the memory location. Same thing, if we take here any voice, while it's in the read-write mode, if you take that voice and move it here, okay, it overrides immediately the memory location. So very powerful. Be aware when you do that, it immediately writes things into your synthesizer, voices into your synthesizer. Okay, so that's about importing. Now, okay, you have probably a lot of sound banks at home. Let's take this one and say, oh, now I want to use them as well, like Rudy explained in his tutorial. We're gonna export this one. It says, okay, do you want to export this? Yes. Let's put that in the same folder as we used before, or you can use any folder, of course. Let's select that folder. Okay. Continue, because that was still open. Now if you're gonna look into that folder, as you can see, the voices are here. Okay, so same thing. Let's say we take another bank. Gosh, only 4 voices, or 5, sorry. Proceed. Up. Voila, saved. Pressing the escape button is automatically resetting the tool. So you can always use that key if you want to avoid pressing OK or enters. Voila. So I take here several libraries, as you can see. 15 voices. Continue. Export. Proceed. Go. Escape. Voila. Now, if we have a look, we probably have already a bit more voices here in our folder. Okay. Now we have those voices, and again, you can structure a new library, or you can say, okay, I want to send those voices here to my synthesizer. Be aware, if you do that, it writes them into the memory locations as being as you can find here. Okay, so imagine you want to relocate a voice to another position. Either you drag that voice to that position here, or you can do a little trick, which is this one. Let's take this up. It's sent to the synthesizer. Now go here and say get it back. Well, why does that voice come back and not the voice that is in the memory slot? It's because this one is currently active. Right? Imagine we have the C++ flute active. If you do this, then is of course that voice that will return into the library. Okay, so once you play with it, you will see that it's quite powerful, this way of managing libraries. Okay, what do we have more? The compare button has been explained, get all has been explained, store all is the same thing. So we have here now 16 voices. Would you want to store it? No. If you would press this one, same thing. No, we don't want to store it. The clear feature, okay, that clears the list. Now what we can explain more is compare, read, write, restore, drag, drop. Drag, drop we have. I think I'm covered mostly almost all features here. The important thing is if you use that button here, that's a dangerous one because it overrides everything, so be aware when you do that, I think twice. The drag drop feature is a very important feature because it automatically imports voices. Now, if you drag it on this list, the library, it does it. But if you drag it here, what happens? Oops. No panic. It didn't send it to your synthesizer. The tool recognizes that this contains multiple voices and said, oh, that's probably something for the library. So I stuffed this into the library. So no panic. This can be done. What do we have more? Renaming voices is not possible with this tool. This is something for later on. Oh yeah, let's do this. If you press here on this bar and the title, then the about screen is appearing. So if you would now press this button or this button, then you're redirected to my website. If you receive this tool from a friend, then please get in touch with me via the email so I get your contact details, because the more users I have using this tool, the more people I know that use a VL1, the more I will be stimulated to start working on a full editor for the VL1, VL7 synthesizers. So I made already one for the VL7m, which is the little brother of the VL1. So I'm prepared to make one for the VL1, but I need enough subscribers. Here you see the release. I will normally not do a lot of changes anymore, but if there are new changes, then if you did subscribe to my mailing list, then you will be automatically updated. Okay, if press escape, voila, that's it. Voila, I think that's it. Let's just restore the list, the backup list that we made. Use the voices, voila, and voila. We are back in business. We have the list of our previous backup, and we can play again. Voila, that's it. I didn't forget anything, so that's it. Any questions can be asked or drop me an email, and I will do my best to respond. Okay, bye.